What's up, YouTube? Got quite a bit done this evening. I'm only really working like an hour or two each night after I put my daughter to sleep because I don't have as much free time as I used to, obviously, with work and having a family, just in general. But I did get quite a bit done. This is what the engine bay looks like right now. You can see all the wirings removed, battery. Still have yet to remove the brake booster and the master cylinder there. Clutch line's gone. Again, all the wiring. Nothing was really too difficult here. Just taking bolts out and shoving it through. Power steering I still haven't disconnected yet. Just don't want to have to worry about that until after. Again, I'll show you in a minute, but if anyone needs parts, this thing is getting stripped like pretty much to the bone. I'm going to touch pretty much every bolt. I remember doing this before. I touched pretty much every bolt. So when I'm trying to keep the bumper intact and the front mount, so you can see I left the piping. Getting kind of lazy. I mean, I'm taking everything else off, but see if I can do it by keeping that. Next thing I got done, see, I had to take the fender off because there is wiring that goes all along here, through here. So I was also able to get this done. This is a bitch. That's the best way to describe it. This is what you're going to need to do. Pretty much, if you want to get a wire merge yourself, you're going to have to remove that cabling here so they can rewire for it, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am. So you're going to have to pretty much get this far, the behind the dash wiring, which, I mean, it only took me about an hour and a half, but it's just kind of tedious and it's frustrating. So I can go over a couple tips with that before I do. Like, I pride myself on having a clean garage, but you can see that there's a lot just laying around. I'm trying to store as much as I can in the hatch because I won't really have to go to the hatch except for to do the fuel pump, and I can kind of put the seats down to do that. Just don't want to dirty this up real bad. So first, I'll go over the parts that you're going to keep that you need even after you do the swap. So this is all the moldings. So this would be the one that's underneath the seatbelt. This would be the one that the seatbelt goes up and down on. And then you have, let's see if I can pull it out from under here. Then this molding here, this is the molding for each door. So I haven't done the back yet, but that's what you're gonna need there. This is all gauge wiring stuff. Obviously I'm gonna keep the gauges and put those in the new car, so I kept all that. Then they look like it too. They're worth their weight in gold. These are just all the bolts that came out. You'd be surprised if you work on Subarus a lot, you're gonna lose stuff and you're gonna be like, hey, I just need this size, or I need. And Subaru bolts are very common. Like, they all use pretty much the same thread and pitch. So nuts and bolts just come in really handy. So I'm keeping those. I got something to kind of organize them all. And I started doing that, but there's just a lot that I need to organize. So I digress. These are easy to take out. Just pop them out. This just pulls off. This one right here, all the top pieces that run along the roof or the headliner there, these are a bitch to take off. They're really difficult. They're not like, they're on there pretty tight, but the issue being is that they have these metal connectors that go into the actual like chassis. So you have to pull them really hard, but the trick is if you pull them too hard, you'll snap this really thin plastic. It's really thin. So I remember last time I did snap it, and I got close on one of them. Yeah, this one. You can see I got really close. You can see where it kind of like bent and like creased. And I actually broke it right here. So I broke one of these off right there. That's not going to prevent me from putting it back up. But these are very fragile. Just take your time and kind of pull them slow. It's kind of like the luck of the draw, if you will, because what I do is I kind of get underneath there and grab, And then what I'll do is when I say slow, I mean, don't try to pull all of it out at once. I feel where those tabs are, and I just give it a quick, like real quick, hard, like yoink. And normally it'll come out. But there was one or two that didn't, so. All right. So back in here. Okay. Got a lot of room. So first thing, this is the airbag module. You're not going to need to keep this. So these clips are like a bitch to take out. I'm using the word bitch a lot because a lot of it just frankly is. So these clips are really hard to take out, especially these right here. These clips, they're really difficult. They don't come out easy because they're airbag. They don't want them to come out easy, right? They don't want people to accidentally take them off or anything like that, so they make them difficult. So I just cut them. I'm not going to be reusing this, and I didn't want to have to deal with the connectors like at all, so I just cut it wherever I could to make it easier. The dash itself, there's along the front of the dash, like right there, like coming down, like really close to the window, there's a vent piece for like your defroster. You kind of pop that off, just kind of pry it and pop it off. And behind there, you'll see these two bolt holes. Those are Phillips or 10 millimeter. If you can get a 10 millimeter on there, I mean, great. I use like a bent Phillips head, and it works great for me, but it's really hard to get those two, so be prepared for that. That's to get the dash off. Other things to get the dash off, I mean, I can show you the dash beam. That'll make sense. So here's the dash, and those would be where those two bolts are that I was referring to, like right here. And that, again, not fun. What else? So the dash beam is not that difficult either. Once you get the dash off, it's just behind the dash is like cabling is just running through all of it. It's either held on by zip ties or kind of screwed in. So you kind of have to, what I experienced before was kind of pull the dash like half out so you can get behind it and then start unscrewing stuff or pulling off or cutting the cable ties so you can kind of work your way through, because you can't pull it off with all that cabling attached. So that the dash is probably the hardest part, like the dash itself. Once you get the dash off, it's clean and green. So the dash beam's a little bit tricky. You just have to remove these two bolts and kind of pull out with this side, and then with the other side you actually pull out this way. So because there's bolts sticking out this way, so you have to pull it out this way, but you can only do that once you pull this one towards you. That's not too big of a deal. What else? The steering wheel, the steering column itself, there's just two bolts that hold that really in, right there and right there, and it'll kind of fall down. It will only fall down a certain, like probably about a foot, but gives you enough room to do a lot of stuff. And then what you have to do is come in here, and here's the shifter linkage right here. There's one 12 millimeter bolt. Just remove that 12 millimeter, and then you just pull the steering wheel hard and it'll come through. It's pretty easy. Cable line. The cable line will just, if you have a cable-driven clutch, you can just kind of pull that through, and then the speedometer cable is the opposite. This attaches to the gauge cluster. Mine's cable-driven as well for the gauge cluster, for the speedometer, and that you can just pull through too. This attaches to the back of the gauge cluster, and it's really weird. So the ECU gets speed from the gauge cluster. So normally it's the other way around. The ECU will like send speed, but because this connects directly to and it's cable driven, it connects. This just spins in here. That's all that does, and then it gives data to the actual gauge cluster to up the RPMs, or that the RPMs are going up, or that the speed's going up, and then it's actually sent over to the ECU, which is really weird. So if you have a bad speed sensor, your ECU will put it in limp mode. It has no idea what the fuck's going on. Okay, so next steps, I'm probably going to take a break for a little bit, but next steps would be probably the seats, maybe the transmission. I'm just running out of room. Like, I have no fucking room. I'm gonna have to hope maybe someone will come and pick all this stuff up. That would be great. But I mean, all this stuff I don't need. Like, I got rid of the turbo kit this morning, but I mean that saved me a little bit of room. But I really need to just get some room in here. So I don't want to, but maybe the transmission's next. Just because going from the bottom is just terrible. Whenever I do a clutch job, I remove the engine as opposed to the transmission because it's so much easier to remove the engine and then put it back as opposed to getting underneath and bench pressing a fucking transmission. So I wanted to, and I neglected to because I just didn't want to get under the car that much. I was being lazy. I have put a motor and transmission together inside actually this body style. I put in a 6-speed with a JDM STI motor. I put it all in together, attached, and it went rather smoothly. And I was going to do that, pull them out both attached, but I was just kind of weary because I put it in before, but I haven't taken it out, and I didn't know if I could swing it, so I didn't do it. But that's probably my next course of action. I'll probably move a whole bunch of stuff to our other garage because this is like my play garage, and then we have another garage we just moved. So my wife's gonna be pissed, but I'm gonna have to store stuff in there. Okay, well, that's the update for today. If you guys have any questions, I probably didn't go over enough of this stuff, but there's all the wiring, by the way. It's just a pile of wires coming from the engine bay and all over, so be prepared for that. Most of this is going to be what you're sending to, iWire. If you do an wire merge, you're already that far anyway, so, why not just fucking do the whole swap, save, $1,000, but to each their own. I understand that some people don't want to, have to solder any wires, so that makes sense, but okay. Digressing once more, but thanks again, YouTube.